We are the Ministry of the Real Truth, and we are asking today, what did Jesus look like? We are going to first have a look at this video we found on YouTube, freely available on YouTube. No copyright breach or infringement was intended, so we should be okay as far as copyright claims and strikes go. We found this video very informing. It's probably from a US Hebrew Israelite movement cult perspective, trying to verify that Jesus was black, Mary was black, everybody in the Bible was black, because they're looking for their identity. They've lost their identity, so we can sympathize with those people in that particular movement.
Seen or heard of biblical icons where Jesus or the Virgin Mary have dark skin, or even Abraham or King David? Then look beyond Europe. Russia has opened its vaults to reveal biblical icons featuring darker skinned figures. In case this is making you wonder if Russia has its own twist on biblical figures, the answer is a no. This is not the case at all. This is, a matter of fact, as real as the untouched horizon of time. These icons aren't just artistic anomalies. These hold deep meanings of hidden shaded truths, sparking serious, curious questions about history and faith, representation, and the unexpected corners of religious art. Pay close attention, amazing people. You are just about to hear it today, like it is, in this video. Before we continue, kindly endeavour to hit that like button as a way of supporting.
Okay, so we again asking, what did Jesus actually look like? Because it's been said that nowhere in biblical scripture has anyone who spent time around him or saw him and listened to him, heard his sermons, teachings, hung around him for 24/7, 365 of his 3-year mission, describe exactly what he actually looked like. Many may say, oh, but there is one. He wasn't much to look at, to bring attention to, etc. But it's there, written in the Bible. We have come across supposed non-Jew Gentile descriptions in said ancient writings of his description, from those who trialed him and sent him to his death on the cross and others. All this information is coming from the website thenazareneway.com and their studies, the physical descriptions of Jesus, the oldest views and literary data on the external appearance of Jesus and Nazarene, and there they state there is no description of Jesus in the New Testament or in any contemporary versions. So I'm going to go have a look at that to verify that statement. Here is the Nazarene way of Essenic studies. So this is all probably Essene based or orientated. The physical descriptions of Jesus, the oldest views and literary data on the external appearance of Jesus the Nazarene. And as we just read, there is no description of Jesus in the New Testament or in any contemporary source. Yet, in hundreds of icons, paintings, and even coins, there is a common quality that enables us to identify Jesus in works of art. As this one here, probably a Renaissance painting, Middle Ages or earlier or later. And this supposed imprint of Jesus' face, the Shroud of Turin, often said to be the real thing or a well created or crafted hoax. Again, yet in hundreds of icons, paintings and even coins, there is a common quality that enables us to identify Jesus in works of art. Starting in the 6th century, artistic depictions of Jesus seem inspired or even copied from a single source. The oldest views and data on the external appearance of Jesus, the apocrypha and pseudepigrapha. Pseudepigrapha is books, writings, etc., considered not to be real. People today say, oh, that's the lost gospels of Mary, Bartholomew, Judah, etc. These are deemed by top experts, scholars, theologians, to be not so much fraudulent at times, but someone trying to copy the style of one of the disciples, an apostle who wrote letters, like Paul, for instance. He was well aware that there was a lot of fake letters floating around saying that they were written by him when they weren't, so he added a key to it so anyone he sent a letter to can identify that it was actually from Paul. Apparently 13 letters that he wrote, 6 or 7 of them out of the 13 were originally written by him. It's been verified by agnostic, atheist, top theologian, scholar, Bart D. Ehrman, and probably a few others. Okay, the oldest views and data on the external appearance of Jesus, the apocrypha, that'd be the Roman Catholic, Tobit, etc. You find in their Bibles, and pseudepigrapha. The Church Fathers, they were all Roman Catholic. Other data, literary data on the oldest pictures of Jesus, extant pictures of Jesus, portraits ostensibly authentic, portraits by painters, sculptors, etc., alleged supernatural pictures, pictures of Jesus in ancient art, symbolical and allegorical representations of him, representations as teacher and lawgiver, origin of the pictures of Jesus, iconoclasm, the religious and political destruction of sacred images or monuments. The oldest views and literary data on the external appearance of Jesus, the description of Publius Lentulus, possibly a Roman. Sounds very Roman or very Latin. The following was taken from a manuscript in the possession of Lord Kelly and in his library, and was copied from an original letter of Publius Lentulus at Rome, it being the usual custom of Roman governors to advertise the Senate and people of such material things as happened in their provinces in the days of Tiberius Caesar. Publius Lentulus, president of Judea, wrote the following epistle to the Senate concerning the Nazarene called Jesus. And we just came across some information the other day, we may have included it in our latest video upload, where the Romans said, well, for you to be deemed a deity, a god with a capital G or little g, gods, you had to be deemed by them. Okay? Whereas you couldn't go around claiming that this person was a deity or a god, big G or little g's. There appeared in these our days a man of the Jewish nation of great virtue named Yeshua, Jesus, who is yet living amongst us. So that word must have been used at that time in that original ancient, very old, now long dead, not spoken, not written Hebrew. Today we have a modern vernacular, a derivative of that, which is possibly coming from the Canaanites, Ugaritic, the Hebrew that was revived in the 1900s, which is the Israeli Hebrew, who is yet living among us and of the Gentiles, non-Jews, is accepted for a prophet of truth, but his own disciples call him the Son of God. He raiseth the dead and cureth all manner of diseases. A man of stature, somewhat tall and comely, with very reverent countenance, such as the beholders may both love and fear. His hair of the colour of the chestnut, full, ripe, plain to his ear, so it might not necessarily be ginger. Whence downwards it is more orient and curling and wavering about his shoulders. In the midst of his head is a seam or partition in his hair. It's like, what's his name? That guy who played the Joker. I can't remember his name. He was a singer. He had that part in his hair when he played a certain person, right? Part down the middle there. Parted to one side. He had a partition in his hair after the manner of the Nazarenes. His forehead plain and very delicate. His face without spot or wrinkle, beautified with a lovely red. His nose and mouth so formed as nothing can be reprehended. His beard thickish and colour like his hair, not very long but forked. His look innocent and mature, his eyes grey, clear and quick. In reproving hypocrisy he is terrible, in admonishing courteous and fierce spoken. So he didn't muck around when it came to hypocrites and their hypocrisy. He was pleasant in conversation, mixed with gravity. It cannot be remembered that any have seen him laugh, but many have seen him weep. In proportion of body, most excellent, his hands and arms delicate to behold. In speaking, very temperate, modest and wise. A man for his singular beauty, surpassing the children of men. He's a good-looking guy, apparently, by the looks of it. The letter from Pontius Pilate to Tiberius Caesar. It would have been hit with the ladies, right? This is a reprinting of a letter from Pontius Pilate to Tiberius Caesar describing the physical appearance of Jesus. Copies are in the Congressional Library in Washington, D.C. Library of Congress, probably, as well. To Tiberius Caesar. A young man appeared in Galilee preaching with humble unction a new law in the name of the God that had sent him. At first, this is Pontius, was apprehensive that his design was to stir up the people against the Romans, start a revolt, start a riot, and to take over. Well, that's what these people wanted, right? But unfortunately he wasn't there to do that. But Pontius's fears were soon dispelled, as Jesus of Nazareth spoke rather as a friend of the Romans than of the Jews. One day Pontius Pilate observed in the midst of a group of people a young man who was leaning against a tree, calmly addressing the multitude, mass of people, right? They gathered. He was told it was Jesus. This Pontius could easily have suspected, so great was the difference between him and those who were listening to him. His golden coloured hair and beard, okay, so now he's got golden coloured hair, not chestnut, and beard gave to his appearance a celestial aspect. He appeared to be about 30 years of age. And then Pilate says, never had he seen a sweeter or more serene countenance. What a contrast between him and his bearers with their black beards and tawny complexions. Unwilling to interrupt him by his presence, Pontius continued his walk, but signified to his secretary to join the group and listen. Later, Pontius Pilate's secretary reported that he'd never had he seen in the work of all the philosophers anything that compared to the teachings of Jesus. His secretary told him that Jesus was neither seditious nor rebellious. Seditious, what does that mean? Like a real hard badass? Right. Maybe. So they extended to him their protection. He wasn't a danger to them, that's probably what it means, right? He was at liberty to act, to speak, to assemble, and to address the people. Because this Pontius Pilate found him not to be this and that, right? Found him very nice. He was at liberty to act, to speak, to assemble, and to address the people. This unlimited freedom provoked the Jews. They couldn't stand that, right? They gave him this leeway. Not the poor, but the rich and powerful. So it would have been the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and anyone there that had a lot of coin. Later, Pontius Pilate wrote to Jesus requesting an interview with him at the Praetorium. He came when the Nazarene made his appearance. Pilate was having his morning walk, and as he faced him, his feet seemed fastened with an iron hand to the marble pavement, and he trembled in every limb as the guilty culprit, though he was calm because Jesus was probably looking through him and knew all his sins, all that sort of stuff. For some time, Pilate stood admiring this extraordinary man. There was nothing in him that was repelling, nor in his character, yet Pilate felt awed in his presence. He told him that there was a magnetic simplicity about him. There's just something about him, that nobody else ever had, that he'd come across, right? He was like mesmerising, charismatic, etc. And his personality that elevated him far above the philosophers and teachers of his day, Pontius' day. Now, noble sovereign, these are the facts, because he's writing to Tiberius Caesar, the Caesar at the time, because possibly Augustus had passed on. Now, noble sovereign, these are the facts concerning Jesus of Nazareth. And he says he took the time to write Caesar in detail concerning those matters. And he said that such a man who could convert water into wine, change death into life, disease into health, calm the stormy seas, is not guilty of any criminal offence. And as others have said, we must agree, truly this is the Son of God. So he had an inkling that he was who he said he was. Your most obedient servant, Pontius Pilate. The emerald of Caesar. Yeah, they have this sort of hairstyle there, braided. Let's see, it's just a US Hebrew Israelite site. No, it doesn't look like it. So they would say, oh, that proves that he was African, because he's got this cornrows and all this sort of stuff. But he looks very white there, doesn't he? They could have borrowed that from the Africans or something like that, in that day. The Emerald of Caesar. It's just a portrait, isn't it? A picture. This likeness of Jesus was copied from a portrait carved on an emerald by order of Tiberius Caesar, which emerald the Emperor of the Turks afterwards gave out of the treasury of Constantinople to Pope Innocent VIII for the redemption of his brother, taken captive by the Christians. The Archko volume. Another description of Jesus is found in the Archko volume, which contains official court documents from the days of Jesus. This information substantiates that he came from racial lines which had blue eyes and golden hair. In a chapter, so now it's got golden hair, right? Okay, it matches Pilate, because this guy is probably getting it from those Acti Pilatus or Acts of Pilate, that book, those writings. Okay, so another description of Jesus is found in the Archko volume, which contains official court documents from the days of Jesus that this author apparently got from the Vatican. He was allowed to go through their Vatican library and he found that and all this sort of stuff. This information substantiates that he came from racial lines which had blue eyes and golden hair. In a chapter entitled Gamaliel's Interview, it states concerning Jesus, Yeshua's appearance. And he states, this person had written, I asked him to describe this person to me so that I might know him if I should meet him. He said, if you ever meet him, Yeshua, you will know him. While he is nothing but a man, there is something about him that distinguishes him from every other man. He is the picture of his mother, only he has not her smooth round face. His hair is a little more golden than hers, though it is as much from sunburn as anything else. There you go. So he had a bit of a dark hue there. He is tall and his shoulders are a little drooped. His visage, or his face, is thin and of a swarthy complexion, or his image, or his likeness, is thin and of a swarthy complexion, though this is from exposure, probably to the elements, the sun, the cold, etc. His eyes are large and is soft blue and rather dull and heavy. This Jew, Nazarite, is convinced that he is the Messiah of the world. This was the same person that was born of the Virgin in Bethlehem some 26 years before. The Archko volume, translated by Doctors Mackintosh and Twyman of the Antiquarian Lodge, Genoa, Italy, from manuscripts in Constantinople, and the records of the senatorial docket taken from the Vatican of Rome, 1896, 1992 to 93. So we have done a video and uploaded that on the Archko volume, and we found that his peers said he's a fake. This author's a fake. He didn't go to Rome, he didn't go to the Vatican, he didn't get those manuscripts, all this sort of stuff in the amount of time that he said it took him to get there in his day. Yeah, it's all fraudulent, it's all fake apparently. We will leave that video as an end screen so you can look at that if you haven't already seen it. Josephus, the Antiquities of the Jews. It has been said Josephus, this is by top scholar theologian Bati Ehrman and others, he can't really be trusted because somebody's possibly copied his style, so they can tell it's not Josephus writing, right? They've added to it probably some Christian at a later age, right? They've added these bits and pieces, but that's entirely over to you. This is a quote from Josephus from his historical 1st century writings entitled Antiquities of the Jews. book number 18, chapter 2, section 3. Now there was about this time Jesus, a wise man, because we're not too sure if he actually saw Jesus. You heard of him, but don't know if he actually met him face to face. Now there was about this time Jesus, a wise man, if it be lawful to call him a man, for he was a doer of wonderful works. We're not too sure if he actually said there was the man righteousness. We're not too sure of that. If it be lawful to call him a man, for he was a doer of wonderful works, a teacher of such men as received the truth with pleasure. He drew over to him both many of the Jews and many of the Gentiles, or non-Jews, Romans, Greeks, etc. He was the Christ. And when Pilate, at the suggestion of the principal men amongst us, the authorities like the Sadducees, the Pharisees, etc., had condemned him to the cross, those that loved him at the first did not forsake him. They didn't abandon him, right? For he appeared to Christians, so named from him. For he appeared to them alive again the third day, as the divine prophets have foretold these and 10,000 other wonderful things concerning him. And the tribe of Christians, that group of Christians so named from him, are not extinct at this day. So they're still Christians after the fact, right? Cornelius Tacitus, a Roman historian, he was also a great orator. Cornelius Tacitus was a Roman historian who lived around 56 to 120 AD, and he is believed to have been born in France or Gaul into a province aristocratic family. He became a senator, a consul, and eventually governor of Asia. That's what it was known in that time. Some say Asia Minor, etc. Tacitus wrote at least 4 historic treatises. Around 115 AD, he published Annals in Rome, in which he explicitly states that Nero prosecuted the Christians in order to draw attention away from himself for Rome's devastating fire of 64 AD. In the Annals, beginnings there, it actually says that Nero had to turn his face away from what Diocletian or Domitian had done, one of those people. It was so horrendous, so horrific, that he just had to turn his face away and disgusting close his eyes, just couldn't look at it, right? What he'd done. In that context, Cornelius Tacitus, the Roman historian, mentions Christus, who was put to death by Pontius Pilate as procurator. Right? Christus, Annals 1544 2-8. Nero fastened the guilt and inflicted the most exquisite tortures on a class hated for their abominations, called Christians by the populace. And that's Roman people, right? Christus, from whom the name had its origin, suffered the extreme penalty during the reign of Tiberius at the hands of one of our procurators, Pontius Pilatus, in a most mischievous superstition, thus checked for the moment, again broke out not only in Judea, the first source of the evil, but even in Rome. See, we are saying these are Romans who came under this Roman church, right? They started to believe in these teachings, etc., about this Jesus, right? But the disciples, being Jews, they would not have taken on pagan names, because Christian or Christos, however you spell it, is a loan word from the Greeks. Romans did that quite a bit. They borrowed words from the Greeks, they borrowed art, religion, etc., gods and all that sort of stuff as well. They're quite known for that. So these disciples of Yeshua Mashiach, or Jesus the Messiah, would not have taken that on board. It's like, it's actually written in scripture, oh no, we can't dwell with a Gentile, we can't sit near them, we can't eat dinner with them, we can't associate with them, and we don't eat their food, we eat kosher food, God forbid, etc., etc. But over time, these disciples were told, you need to go and preach Jesus the Christ, Yeshua Mashiach, Yeshua the Messiah, and his Mashiach and his teachings to the world. Okay, the Gentiles and the Greeks, or the foreigners, the Romans, the Gentiles, etc., etc. Peter was kind of anti that, but he eventually did it. Went to Constantinople, and then he went to Rome to preach, and that's where he met his end. So they would not have called themselves Christians. In your modern Americanized English Bible translations or versions, it will have that Paul said this, Paul called them Christians, or that sort of stuff. Perhaps he was referring to those Roman Greek converts in Damascus, etc., that he went and preached to and they converted.